everyone, welcome to this tutorial where we're going to be painting this gingerbread man having a fun bath in some hot chocolate. I hope that you have fun and enjoy painting along this festive season. Let's get started. All right, I am super excited to paint this one. I have been waiting at the edge of my seat to get started with this. So the first thing that we have to paint is obviously our background. We want to get that out of the way. So I'm just cleaning off my brush, making sure I got some water on it. And then I'm going to paint the background nice and blue, but I'm not loving this shade of blue. I just feel like I want it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to grab some of my white. I'm going to mix on the plate. And let's go. I'm going to paint my background. I'm definitely going to have to mix a lot more than what I just put down. And I'm trying my best to just do one solid motion up and down. Staying consistent with my brush strokes here. Yeah, I need more paint. And then as I come around, I don't want to necessarily paint over everything. So I'm just going to outline around my little hat and my gingerbread. So I'm going to fill in the background. I'm going to speed up the video, and I will see you when we're ready to move on to the next part. Okay, so I have done my background, and now I'm going to be working on my cup. So I'm going to go with a nice red. I'm going to come around and paint this. Now I don't necessarily care over here if I'm painting over some of my leaves and things, because I'm going to paint over it with green anyway. So I am totally fine if this part is not perfect. And also just want to point out, around here, you got to fill in the background and then make sure you filled out this part as well for your background. I missed that and then had to go back to it before I started this video. So I'm just filling out my cup here. And then this part, it's the little spill of the drink. So I want to keep that nice and open. So how you're going to make this cup really pop is by adding shadows and highlights. So right here, you'll see a line that I have created for you, and we're going to add some shadows down here to make this bottom part of the mug really stand out. Went over my line a little bit here. And I'm going to come in and do this part over here as well. My handle. So depending on how bright and vibrant you want your handle to be, you might need to do 2 layers, which I'm thinking I'm going to do before I start adding some of my shadows. So I'm going to let this dry. I wanted my handle a little bit thicker, so I painted on top of my background a little bit and I can see through it. So I'm going to grab my dryer. If you have a hair dryer at home, to speed up the process, you can just give this a nice dry. And then we can move on to the second layer. Okay, and now I'm going to come in with my second layer. This looks kind of dry. Yeah, it is. It's sitting on top now. Before, if it was still wet, it would just kind of move around, but I can see that it's sitting on top. So I can put another layer down so it looks more vibrant and red. Versus kind of like a pink undertone, you know? Okay, so I just finished drawing it, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with just a little bit of a light color. It's kind of like a pinkish as well. And while it's still wet a little bit, I did just dry it a hair. I'm going to come in and just kind of blend out a nice area here for a highlight. So I just mixed a little bit of red and white. It is making it a little pinky. I can come towards the edges with red and just kind of help blend it out so it doesn't, you know, sit there. So I'm coming in with some red, blending it into my pink that I had. Trying to keep the middle a little bit nice and what I can even add a little bit more white in the middle and just blend out the edges here into my pink. And this is how you create a fun painting, by adding some depth to it with highlights and shadows. Okay, and then for the shadow, I'm going to mix over here in the middle. I'm going to mix some purple, so red and blue. Mix a purple. I'm going to come in towards my bottom here. Oops, that's a little bit too blue. A little bit darker. Got to mix it a little bit better. And then I can come in right underneath here and add my shadow. I'm going to grab my red and then just same thing as the top with my highlight. I'm just going to blend it in together. Okay, and then right under my handle here, there's a little pencil line. We're going to shadow this part and we're going to shadow in here. So it looks like the handle starting to appear. And then getting some red and just blending it out. The inside we can shadow a little bit, and then we can definitely add a little bit of a highlight in the top. Okay, just looking at it, I'm pretty happy with this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this back part with a little bit more red into my purple. So the middle line right in here, I'm using that purple with a little bit more red inside of it. And this is going to be the shadow for the back of the cup. And then right here, look for the middle. We're going to leave the top nice and exposed. And then we'll come back to that in a little bit. And then in here as well. Okay. So when we are painting our gingerbread, we want it to be a different brown color than the hot chocolate that is inside. I'm going to come in with a straight brown and apply this for my hot chocolate. And then we'll have to mix up a lighter brown for the ginger man. So it just looks a little bit different. And then don't forget to do behind its little shoulder arm area back here as well. Fill out this little part with some hot chocolate. All right, we have finished it. This one was so much fun. I love it. Okay. So the next thing that we can do is we can start working on, I want to let this dry out a little bit more. I'm going to start working on the bottom part with the leaves. So I'm going to come in and mix a little bit of red and green together. I find that green just makes, mixing red and green together, it adds a nice army color to it. I love how it looks. But you can just leave it the green as well. You don't have to mix it into the red. And if you're finding that it turns gray, if you do mix the red and the green, just add a little bit more green to it. It turns a grayish color. Oops, I just put my finger in the brown. And then for the berry, since this purple is still active, I'm going to come in and do my first layer of purple. We're going to come in with a red over top, but I want it to be darker. So with my purple, I'm going to fill out my berries, and then we'll layer some red over top once this is dried. And watercolor, maybe with acrylic too, I'm not 100% sure, but we call this technique underpainting when we apply our shadows first. And then we paint over. So this is technically my underpainting layer. I'm running out of my purple. Okay, I have to let this dry before I put any red on it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on my candy cane. So when I'm doing and painting with white, I don't want to just layer it with white. I want to incorporate a little bit of shadows, otherwise it might look a little dull. So I'm going to grab some blue, brown, and white and give it a good mix. There's actually still some purple on my brush, so that's too dark. So I'm going to come in a little bit more with a lighter white. I'm going to mix a nice shadow color. Okay, so with my little candy cane here, with my shadow color, I'm going to come around my edge. I'm not going to paint the middle. I'm going to leave that middle part nice and open for now. And with this off-white, it's almost like a cream color that I've just mixed, I'm going to paint those edges. get rid of everything on my brush, and now I can come in with pure white and just kind of blend that out with the white. And I'm going to let that dry. And now that I have this layer kind of complete, when I put in my red, my white will really stand out. It won't look so flat. And that's what I'm looking for. And we can do the same technique with the marshmallows. I am going to add a little bit more blue to my shadow here. So I'm just mixing in a little bit of white. And now I can come in towards my edge right in here and create a nice shadow. I don't want to completely cover everything. I just want the little subtle pop of blue. And I'm going to be leaving some of my canvas exposed. Now I can come in with some white. Just blend out that line right in here. So I've got some nice soft blends. And this is going to be the same technique that we use over here with our drippage off the edges. Going to come in with a little bit of blue and just shadow some different points to make the white really stand out. Don't forget to come around the shoulder here. Fill out some drippage area. And then around the rim, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add some shadows to make it look as though on the other edge or the other side we have some drippage as well. And you don't have to just stick with my lines here. You can come in and add more little lines coming down. Make them nice and big. Don't feel like you have to just stick with what I've done. Okay. I'm pretty happy with how this looks for now. I just want to fix this little line over here, so my lines are a little bit more crisp. I think I'm going a little crazy at this point with all my little lines. Okay, I'm going to stop. No, I'm not. I'm going to add, sorry, one more right in here. now I can stop. I feel pretty good about this now. Okay. All right. So now that I've finished with the rim, you can come in, you can even add like maybe some sprinkles on here to make it pop. Definitely just make it your own. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my red. I'm going to do my little candy cane. So I'm just going to pick a stripe area. I'm going to do this part in here nice and red. I feel like that will make my marshmallows pop. If I did that part nice and red, I'm going to come in. And we can do the same thing. We can come in and we can add a little bit of a highlight in here so it looks as though the light is hitting it, just to kind of make it pop. So there is one thing that I want to add. So I'm finding right here it's struggling to distinguish between the marshmallow and the candy cane. So right in here, I'm gonna create a little bit more of a shadow. That way we can separate the candy cane from the marshmallow just a little bit more. And I just mixed a little bit of a brown with that. And it looks as though it's reflecting off of it, which is kind of cool as well. And then right here though, I want to just straighten out this line. This is when the perfectionist of me comes out. I want to make sure everything looks perfect. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm happy with how that looks. So now looking around and it looks like it's time to tackle this guy. Okay, so I'm gonna take my brown, move it to another part of my plate. Now I do want to be a little bit consistent with the color that I'm choosing. So I am gonna mix up a good amount of my brown and I'm gonna mix it all very well. Okay, I'm gonna do it actually a little bit lighter. Okay, now I can come in with my brown gingerbread man and start painting it. And I painted over the little buttons just because I can still kind of see them. And then I'm going to paint over the mouth and the eyes just because I can still kind of see where that is. If you struggle seeing the lines when you paint, just don't paint over them, just go around them. But just because I can see my lines, I have a really nice light that's shining right now. I can see those lines and where it needs to be, okay? And the same for over here. I can see where it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna let that dry for a hot minute, and I'm gonna move back down to my green. I don't love how this is looking, so I'm gonna come in and just paint over top a second layer to just really just make these stand out. Now that my green is dry, I want it to be nice and bold, and I feel like it was just kind of lacking. But now that I have that color down, I can come in with the second layer, and you can already tell such a huge difference of my green. And you'll be able to see the difference now with the red that I'm about to paint for my berries. So with my red, I'm going to come in and paint over top. And I can see that the purple is definitely shining through. And just like anything, when you have your berry, I'm actually just going to put a little bit of white in here as well in certain spots just to make it look as though there's a nice highlight. I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, what I was going to say before that. Just like any berry. The thought's gone. Oh, there has to be shadow and highlight. So that's why I'm adding my nice highlight right now. And then I'm going to come around and give it a nice shadow. So the purple is the underpainting, but I do want it to stand out just a little bit more. I'm going to come in and mix up a little bit of that purple again. Especially under here, I'll shadow. So it looks like there's another berry underneath. And then I'm going to give my berry center a little mark. Okay, so now that this part is done, I can move back to my little gingerbread, and I'm going to come in and just fill out the hat. I need to be careful where I'm putting my hand. I find that I'm smudging stuff because I'm not putting it down in the proper spots that are dry. So I'm putting down my red. There's a lot of red in this painting. A little Santa hat. And then coming in with this purple, I can add a little bit of shadows to it towards my edge over here on the other side. And this will just help make it feel like it is more realistic. And then of course, as we talked about, adding a bit of white for a nice shadow blending that out. Grabbing some bread towards the edges. And then with my white, my pure white, I'm going to come in and just kind of blot around. And I'm fine if it picks up any blues or even any of the reds too that are around it, because I haven't let this fully dry, because that gives me my shadow that I've been talking about. And then when it's dry, I can come in with a more vibrant white. So I'm okay that there's still some red in it. All right, so now for the faces, or let me do the little squiggly lines right here first, actually. So I'm gonna come in, do some nice squiggles. And then I'm gonna do a nice green button. And a red button. Just change it up a little bit. And then I'm gonna come in with a nice light color here, almost white, and fill out its little face. Okay, so I just checked my recording device and it unfortunately died as I was just wrapping up. But basically, all that was missed was I just decorated my little gingerbread. And for the gingerbread man itself, once it has dried, you can use the color that you've already had mixed, mix it with a little bit more of a darker brown, and just underneath its face, under its little armpits, you can add a little bit of shadow. I have decided, and this is just personal preference of how I don't know, personal preference, I guess. I didn't love the eyes that I went with, so I'm just changing the eye shape. I decided I wanted the eyes to be open, so I painted over it with a little bit of gray, added a little bit of white lines on it for the shine of the eye. And this is my painting. I had a lot of fun with this. You can definitely make it your own. You can add a nice background to it. Actually, why don't we do that? I feel like I should do that. I'm gonna grab the back of my brush and I'm gonna add some snowflakes because this looks very mystical already. But you can just make this your own. Get as creative as you'd like. Have fun with it. And then once you are done, if you are deciding to do some polka dots, you can even come in and add a little bit of snowflakes, little stars. I don't want to do too many. I'll just do a little bit. One, two, three, four. Okay, I'm gonna do 5, so it's an odd number. Okay, eek! I am so excited about this. I think this looks so cool. If you have enjoyed painting this video, please check out my other videos, like and subscribe, and happy painting!